Hello and welcome to the Daily Forex Report for July 17th. We're looking at the US Japanese yen pair. This pair created an inside bar during this last session, closed higher. We are looking for it to go potentially up to 79.48, possibly down to 78.43. Look for some resistance around 79.25 and look for some support around 78.65. Now the Euro USD pair, this pair closed higher after having a very long tail, definitely creating a trend line on lower time frames. These three lows in a row, definitely keep an eye on that, look for it. Also, we're looking for it to potentially go as high as 123.99, possibly as low as 121.23. Look for some resistance around 123.25 and look for some support around 121.55. Now the pound US dollar pair, this pair closed higher during this last session, here again having a long tail. Look for it to potentially go as high as 157.57, possibly as low as 154.94. Look for some resistance around 156.75 and look for some support around 155.50. Now the US Swiss, this pair closed lower after moving much higher. Look for it to potentially move higher. We've had three sessions in a row down. Definitely have some trend lines developing. Keep an eye on it. Look for it to potentially go as high as 0.9899, possibly as low as 0.9689. Look for some resistance around 0.9875 and look for some support around 0.9750. Now, as far as news announcements go, we do have some news announcements coming during this next session. We have the pound releasing the Bank of England minutes at 4:30 a.m. Eastern. We also have the jobless claims change for June being released for the pound. Consensus on that is that it has dropped from 8.1K down to 5.0K. Then at 10 a.m. Eastern, we have the U.S. Fed's Bernanke giving a semi-annual report to the U.S. House. Definitely keep an eye on that. Sometimes when he talks, the markets do move, depending on what he says. Then at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, we have the Bank of Canada monetary policy report being released. Most of the time, the numbers have already been released, so it really doesn't affect the market. Then at 2 p.m. Eastern, we have the Fed releasing the Beige Book Economic Survey. So, of course, that could also affect the market. Just need to keep an eye on it. Now, what am I looking for during this next session? Well, if we take a look at the euro, actually, let's take a look at the U.S. Japanese yen first. This pair closed down, had an inside bar. Let me zoom out a little bit. Inside bars are a good potential area for breakouts. The fact that if we drop a trend line, or horizontal line rather, on the low there, that we're real close to this low and this low, we could see it push on through to the downside. If we do, you may want to wait until not only the low is broken there, but actually pushes a little bit lower and closes below the two lows here. It's not much, but it's enough to potentially, if the market rebounds, you don't want to get caught basically in a situation where it moves 8 pips down to an area of support and then retraces on you. So I would look for it to break, look to short the 78.58 mark, and then it's going to come down at very least enough to take a small profit, potentially even more. First area I'd be concerned about is about 15 pips away. If we get past that, we could see it drop on down to the 58.10 mark. So looking to short around the 78.58, looking to potentially go to break even about 15 pips below that at 78.48 with a take profit at 78.10. Now let's jump over to the Euro USD pair and take a look. You can see that long term the trend is down. Let's go to the 4-hour time frame. Take a look at that. Let me zoom out a little bit more. You can see that overall the trend is to the downside. We've, if you notice, we've just pretty much tapped. We have a trend line that's developed, touched all those lines, came right up to it during the past 4 hours. And one of two things is going to happen. Either the long-term trend is going to break through and close above that trend line, and we're going to start moving higher, and the bulls will take over, or the bears are going to continue to take the currency lower. So one of those two things is going to happen. The fact that we've had a trend line, and let me now zoom in a little bit. So those are our two trend lines right now. Currently the bears are in control. We're headed to the downside. Let's take a look. Let's drop down to the 15-minute time frame, zoom out a little bit, and what happens if this does in fact reverse from this move to the upside and start moving lower. Well, these three lows that we have tagged are going to be our trend line that we're going to look for a breakout to the downside. If that does occur, and we are a good ways from it, I'll give you that. But let's take a look at what could potentially happen if this pair reverses. So we have consolidation here. We potentially could get a breakout to the upside. If that does not happen and we get a move to the downside, and we have a short off of this trend line, and we have all this movement right down to here. So let's just take a look at that. Currently what that would look like, and because these two trend lines are moving away from each other, the profit area only gets larger with time. Currently at about 108 pips. So if we get a short off of the 121.92 mark, and we could write it down to the 120.83 mark very easily. Of course, we'll just have to see how long it takes, and if it decides to do that, it could very well break above that trend line, and then the bulls take over and start heading higher. Not going to predict that. Currently, I know which direction overall the market is moving, but we're at a decision point. We have three points moving higher to the downside. We have moved to the upside as well. Long-term trend line would say we're still heading lower. So this next session is going to be the proving ground. And really keep an eye on this, because there's going to be potentially a lot of money made if we get a break to the upside. Go to use a 30 pip stop loss, go to break even, say 15 pips up, and then look for it to run. And if it runs, it's going to run, I would say, somewhere between 70 and 100 to 120 pips easy to the upside. So keep an eye on it. If it drops down, if it hugs this line, maybe even breaks it but closes below it, and we see it drop, then either this session or the next session we could really see it break to the downside and be able to have a very good risk to reward, a situation where we have a 30 pip stop loss, but we're looking to gain 100 pips, possibly 130 pips or more to the downside. Well, I hope that helps, and until next time, this is Jason Fielder. Good trading.